I want to do in this video is show you guys my favourite lenses that I own, rather than showing you my dream lenses that I don't have, and some of them I may never get. I'd actually show you what I use. And these 5 lenses here, I think these are the 5 that I use. Yeah, these 5 lenses make me a living, and without these 5 I would have to sacrifice some areas of my working life. So I'm going to start with probably what I do most, which, as you've seen from this channel, is a lot of property photography. Right, that's the wrong one. Is my Tokina. I always mess up my lens caps, so that is not a Canon. This is a Tokina 11 to 16, and the beauty about this piece of glass is that this is a 2.8 aperture constant, so it's throughout the range. It's 2.8, so it's a really, really good lens. Not only is it obviously good for my property photography, so I can sit myself in the corner of a room and get that wide perspective, I can also stop it down to 2.8. So if I want to take a picture of the night sky, I've done it before when I went to Wales and I shot that starry scene in Snowdonia. That was with this. And the pros and cons. Okay, so the pros of this lens is its aperture and the price. I mean, this was only this was about 4 years ago I bought this now, so I think this was about £450. I don't know how much this is worth now, but I've still got it. I still use it at least twice, 3 times a week. I mean, for a couple of hours at least at a time. And it still works great. It's this really good lens. The autofocus is absolutely fine. The manual focus on this is really nice and sort of gentle and fluid. So it's an all-round really, really good lens. The cons are that it's not a full frame lens. Now, it's a little bit naughty when I do this, and feel free to attack me and shout at me, but I won't care, because what I do is I use this on my full frame lens and I just zoom in the whole way, and I do get a little bit of vignetting in those corners, but I don't care, because what I use it for is usually astro stuff or a panorama, which means I could probably get rid of that vignetting anyway. So when there's vignetting with your lenses, it's not the end of the world, because with software these days you can correct that. So that is my wide lens, which I love. I probably use that the most out of all of my lenses. And this lens now is my 24 to 105. Now, this is a Canon. I've had this for about 5 years, and this is my go-to landscape lens. Now, this lens is so versatile because of its focal length. So 24 to 105. For example, if I'm going away on holiday, or if I go to a really cool city, and if I think I might want to do a bit of street stuff and really capture the tighter angles of the city, and I don't want to pack a couple of lenses, then I'll just take this, because this is a really, really good lens. It's really sharp. It's got that sexy red ring, so it's an L series lens. I mean, admittedly, it's the lower end of the L series, but it's still a great lens. And because I shoot Canon, this Canon 24-105 just sits on my Canons really, really nicely. So I don't ever think there'll be a problem with the electronics, or I mean, there could be down the line, but it's a really, really nice lens. It's an f4 lens. It's perfect for landscapes. It's not so great in low light, but with flash I use this for weddings occasionally as well, and it's a really, really good workhorse lens. So next I want to talk about my nifty 50. Now, this is probably the lens that you develop from when you have a kit lens with your first camera. I've had this lens now since 2010, I think, and listen to that. It sounds like it's falling apart. It's nasty plastic build, and the glass, the front element's really far back, and it's quite small. But this is a 1.8 aperture. This is a really good bit of kit. If you're just starting out in your photography adventures, maybe you want to start charging a bit of money and you think, oh, I want to take it to the next level. This sort of thing will be the next thing naturally to look at. It doesn't break the bank. You can get a nifty 50 these days for about under 100 quid. I think this at the time was 100, but since this has been released, it's actually dropped in price. I think a brand new nifty 50 is about 85 these days. I could be wrong, I'm not sure. It's a 1.8. It's very noisy with its autofocus. So it's not great for video work if you use the on-camera mic, if you're going to be manually focusing. But I use this at weddings still. I put this a full frame lens. I can quite easily put this on my full frame camera. And I know other professionals that still use this lens. The lens flaring is not the best when you get direct sunlight or direct light in the lens, but it doesn't really matter, does it? I mean, sometimes lens flares looks really cool anyway, I think. So, yeah, nifty 50 1.8. It's a brilliant addition to every photographer's bag. Now, one thing you know about me by now, surely, is that I'm not a camera snob. If somebody is shooting with this nifty 50, I would say fair play. Because yes, there's a 1.4 and I think there might be even a 1.2 version, which is going to cost you 10 times as much as maybe you pick this up for. But this lens is so good. It's very sharp. In good light, this lens will not let you down. Just don't drop it, because if you do, it will break, because it's very quite basically made. It's one of the cheapest lenses you can possibly get. So yeah, Canon nifty 50 1.8. Even if you're a Nikon user or Sony or Pentax, whatever, this is a really good lens. And I know they make it for Nikon and Sony as well, and various other brands, but the Sony one is probably one of the cheapest lenses you can buy across the board. So a really good perk of shooting Canon is getting this lens. Right, next I'm going to move on to what lens I use at a wedding. Now again, this is a bit naughty because this is an Art Series lens. It's an 18 to 35, but it's a crop sensor lens, just like my wide lens. So you shouldn't really use this on your full frame camera. I did talk to a photographer the other day who said that if you use these APS-C lenses on full frame, it can mess up the electronics and stuff, but I've never had a problem. And because I didn't know that, I've been doing this for years. I've been doing this for at least a year, and it's never caused me a problem. What I do is I zoom in straight to 35, and I've got a 35mm prime here pretty much. 1.8 as well, across the board. This is a brilliant lens if you want to shoot full frame. Sorry, APS-C, crop sensor. If you want to shoot full frame, this does work as well. You're probably thinking, well, why don't you just get the 35mm prime? Because I couldn't afford it, and at the time when I bought this lens, I didn't have a full frame camera, and I don't want to trade this lens in yet because I love it. It's great for video, and some of the shots I've taken with this lens are some of my favourites I've ever taken, because I leave it at 35mm at 1.8 at weddings. I normally add a vignette in post-processing anyway, so that doesn't really bother me. So again, a really great lens. 18 to 35, 1.8. This is just a lovely lens. And finally, the other lens that makes me a bit of money is this. Now, I'd say for any photographer, this focal length and this lens, not necessarily this lens, but this focal length is almost an essential addition to every photographer's bag. This is a 70 to 200 2.8. Now this is a telephoto zoom, and it's just such a great lens. Again, it's quite old. I bought this second hand. I think I picked this up for about 250 quid, and I've had this since 2012. So 5 years and it's still going strong. I don't know how old this was. I don't have a problem picking up my lenses second hand because they will depreciate and they will get a lot slower than cameras will, and fingers crossed they don't cause you any problems, anywhere near as many problems that a camera would. And the more you pay for it, generally the better made it is. So this lens is what I use for weddings as well. I use this for my speeches, but mainly I use this for headshots. So you guys probably seen loads of tutorials that I do about editing headshots. They're all shot on this, bar none. in the last 5 years, any headshot I've taken, I've used this lens, and it's never let me down. It's the focus on it is brilliant. It's a hypersonic motor, which either means it's really quick or really quiet, or both, I don't know. And it's a really, really, really good lens, and it's the Mark 1 version. I'm not scared to say that. But I don't need, at the moment for my photography, I don't need to spend 1,500 quid on all my lenses across the board. I just don't need to. To make money, all I need are these 5 lenses. For headshots, time is normally on your side, so you can normally take out a little bit more time to get your shot right, and that's what I use this predominantly. For my wedding stuff, I just fire loads of frames with this shot, and the focus is almost always really good. At 200 it gets a little bit shaky, as you can imagine, because there's no stabilization in this, or if there is, it's built in. Is there? No, there is stabilization, but it's built in, so you can't turn it off. It's a really good lens. I use this occasionally for landscapes. A lot of photographers love to shoot long when they shoot for landscape photography, so again, another great addition to your kit bag. So that's the end of this video really. Thanks for watching. Now you know exactly which lenses I use to make my money. And as I'm a full-time photographer, I don't have any other jobs. These lenses here are my 5 lenses that make me money. And if I can do it with these lenses and you've got better lenses, what's your excuse? And if you've not got the money to get top-end lenses, then don't worry. I would always recommend getting second-hand lenses, always. Within reason. Don't get scratch lenses or lenses with fungus on. Do your research, check that they're okay, and you should be fine. That being said, I have just ordered an 85mm 1.4 Sigma, which I'm massively excited to receive. That should be coming in the next couple of weeks. And I got that from eBay. Quite cheap, in fact the cheapest that I've looked around on eBay, and I made an offer and I accepted it. So really excited to play with that. It's not the Art Series lens, it's the old one, but that doesn't bother me. That absolutely does not bother me. I'm just really excited to be able to shoot at 1.4, especially for my headshots, because that'll give me a really, really shallow depth of field that I'm looking forward to playing with. So anyway, thanks for watching. If you are still watching this, thank you for sticking with me. And yeah, keep shooting, get the most out of your lenses, and if you feel like you've outgrown your kit lenses, look at the Nifty 50. I promise you, it's one of the best lenses that you will ever own. And because I'm a bit of a, I wouldn't say a hoarder, but I get a bit sentimental over my lenses. I don't really like getting new lenses very often. I just really love some of the shots my lenses, some of the shots that my lenses have taken. But remember, that's a ridiculous statement, because remember every £2,000 lens and £5,000 body could be a really bad photographer. And equally, behind a Fisher Price lens and a really low budget camera could be a really good photographer. So it's all about what you can see and how you use the camera. So never for 1 second think that it's all about the gear. Before I get too philosophical, thanks for watching. See you on the next episode, and tell your friends. Ta-da.